And talking of presenters, we have another one coming up now. Is Jonathan Parr. And Jonathan is going to talk about Africa Healthcare, why wouldn't he, in Africa Health Week, designing for the people. And Jonathan is Senior Partner, Deputy Head of Studio at Foster and Partners. I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit more about them and his work. And Jonathan is going to join us now.
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can hear and see okay. Yes, thank you for the introduction. Very kind. I am one of the senior partners here at Foster and Partners, based in London. We've been in practice about 60 years or so, and I've been in the office touching 30 years. One thing which, perhaps if there's one real core value of what we do as architects, it's our passion to design projects with people in mind. And that, over the many years of our practice, has led us to question, you might say, the diagrams of conventional buildings. What I wanted to do was to share a short pre-made film with you that highlights two medical projects. One of the largest that we've done as a company, and one of the earliest, which is in fact one of the smallest. And to try and share in this brief moment how we question how hospitals are configured, to try and look at it from the point of view of the patient and what would be the best type of environment. Well-being and sustainability are words which are used quite a lot these days, but for us have been core values in our design work for 60 years. So with that, may I now ask the organisers to share the film, and I will be delighted to answer any questions you may have at the end of it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Parr. I am a senior partner here at Foster and Partners. It's my pleasure to explain how we approach healthcare design. Foster and Partners is an international design practice with a multitude of experience of a wide variety of projects around the globe. And it's with this wide variety of experience that we are able to truly innovate in all manners of architectural design. This range of skills is really born out of the amazing collection of talented young people within our office, a huge variety and a wide variety of backgrounds and levels and interests and experience. Over the years, we have learned that clients truly appreciate a personal level of service, and because of this, we have developed a network of offices worldwide to deliver such a service face to face. We have been an architectural practice for over 60 years, and have managed to successfully deliver over 350 projects worldwide, which means our levels of experience and ability to collaborate with many, many people is truly tried and tested. The expertise that we bring is not just architectural. Even since the first days of the practice, we have prided ourselves and truly believed in an integrated way of designing, which is why you see in front of you now a huge range of titles, which are all the skills that we offer under the umbrella of Foster and Partners Design. Our passion for design is to always question and to try and reimagine and reinvent. For us, seeking a new way of solving a problem is a joy and something to be revered. These are some of our earlier projects that have covered transportation, high-rise design and workplace. But this passion for questioning design is something which we are also bringing to our medical experience and our medical projects. Our projects may also be research projects. They may also be addressing the highest levels of government and political advice. They can be imagining man's further exploration to Mars, to the moon. They can be imagining the potential for introducing and collaborating with robots, but at their heart, they are all driven by a desire for low carbon and sustainable solutions. The low carbon passion we have is part of a carbon neutral pathway, a design process that extends from optimizing structure to developing facades, integrating of all the mechanical and electrical engineering systems, to truly pushing the efficiency of energy utilization, and to consider the potential for carbon offsets, all within the Paris Accord agreements, a target that is truly important for us to achieve. The challenge we face as designers is that across the world there are many design standards that we must design to, and that these have varying ways of assessing a sustainable and a carbon design. The Paris Agreement is a target that we are all passionate about reaching, but we find that there are shortfalls in how to achieve that according to these current rating standards. That is why within Foster & Partners we have now begun to develop our own way of assessing projects. Particularly in the field of medical design, we are always pushing the experience of the patient. For us, it is about the health and well-being of that individual. A hospital should not feel like a hospital, if at all possible. The benefits of creating a welcoming and friendly environment are well known to improve the quality and the well-being of that patient's stay in such a facility. From the beginning of a project, whether it is discussing the briefing aspects of the project, whether it is considering the potential for repeating design components and delivering modular medical components, these are all elements of how we approach medical design to deliver smart solutions. The multiple projects that I showed in the first slide, this range of global experience, is something which has allowed us to bring global expertise and innovation to all of our design projects, most certainly those of medical projects. And I would now like to share two projects in particular that explain our passion for medical design. Circle Bath, United Kingdom. Circle Bath was the first medical project that we undertook approximately 20 years ago, and is a delightful project set in the heart of the West Country of England. From the onset, the desire was to create a project which did not feel like a classic medical facility. And in this image that you can see here, the ambience of a private club or a hotel reception is much more akin to the design that we ultimately delivered. As with Stansted Airport, we effectively turned the design on its head. With this facility, the patient's rooms are on the upper floor. Reception is easily accessed in the middle level, and the operating theatre and other clinician rooms are on the lowest floor. It does put people first, which is at the core of our smart and sustainable medical designs. This early visualization encapsulates the aspirations of that project. The patient is at ease in a room with far-reaching and pleasant views. The window is generous, and by the side of the window is an equally generous seat. The room is modest, but has all the qualities of providing the most pleasant stay possible in a medical facility. This is a view of the completed project, and as you can see, those design qualities are embodied in the final outcome. This is a view of one of the operating theatres. It may be on the lowest level of the building, but it also benefits from natural light. We sought to provide the best quality conditions for all rooms and all spaces within this facility. The Pavilion, University of Pennsylvania, United States. In contrast to Circle Bath, the Penn Hospital is located in the bustling and intense downtown city environment of Pennsylvania, a very different setting for a much larger medical facility. One of the greatest challenges for this project was to stitch this large medical facility into a very dense urban environment. There are many components for this project, and the brief and the numbers of rooms was considerable. The brief for Penn Hospital is large. There are a considerable number of facilities, and we felt from the outset that a modular approach would be eminently suitable, and to also design the rooms such that the clinicians would come to the rooms as much as possible, minimizing the movement of patients within the facility. We studied many options and developed models, study diagrams, and indeed prototypes and mock-ups to achieve a result that satisfied the client's brief and our own aspirations. This animation illustrates our approach to minimize the number of typologies within the project. Our desire to put patients first is clearly illustrated with this plan that shows how the rooms are put to the perimeter of the plan, thus allowing natural light into each and every room. We believe that the use of mock-ups is essential to supplement visualizations as part of the design process. It allows users to experience the facility firsthand before commitments are made for construction. Complementing the typical floor plan where patients' rooms are clearly arranged around the perimeter of the building, the lower levels, with clinician facilities, have a similar clear organization strategy. To complement the highly organized, clearly defined, typical floor plans, communal spaces are welcoming, use natural materials, and are flooded with natural light. To complement the well-being of the patients, with their rooms arranged along the perimeter to benefit from natural light, this section shows the split service cores as part of a strategy to minimize walking distances for all doctors and other related medical staff as they use this facility. Integrated design, which I have mentioned is incredibly important to us, is exemplified in this image. Every member of the design team, the client team, and indeed the contractors team is present here. And at the center of this is the architectural team responsible for that complete coordination, truly an integrated approach to designing sustainable and integrated projects. Our approach to smart design is to involve all parties as early as possible through the use and exploration of mock-ups. Smart design is also about ensuring efficiency, modular approach, and as much prefabrication of parts as possible, minimizing time and cost. Penn Hospital is our latest in a journey of designing medical facilities for people. It embodies low carbon design, sustainability, beautiful landscaping, and natural light. We look forward to discussing this and other opportunities with you at your convenience. Thank you.
And I'm going to bring Jonathan in to the conversation, who's sitting there with lots of natural light in that room. Jonathan, coming in from above and behind, that's one of the themes, isn't it? Well, we got you, Jonathan. I'm just going to stop you there. We've got you on mute, unfortunately. I think that's probably that's the saying of the last 12 months.
I think it's interesting that I do feel like I'm in my own patient room here. We've all been working from home, which is an interesting story that we could all tell. Natural light, greenery, lovely things, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to come on to things like natural light and putting the patient first, because I think it makes sense, and I'm sure there's some research to suggest that fresh air and natural light all help. But we've just come, or we're still in a worldwide pandemic. So how will that affect the design of hospitals? Because we've all seen those overcrowded situations in wards with, corridors full of people. And then we see your slides, which show a very different story. And there's got to be a transition between the two. But we are in this, health services worldwide are under strain, aren't they?
I think the interesting one with Penn, obviously, this is a design that was done pre-COVID, obviously, but there was a great deal of time spent with the staff of the facility to mock up what the corridors, the rooms were like, and that short film hopefully showed that we took over a warehouse space and mocked up a number of different configurations to get them familiar with how the building could operate and to also talk about space standards. I think with extreme cases such as COVID, which caught us all completely unawares, it's difficult to try and imagine how can you plan for those sorts of disasters, because obviously space is at a premium, sites are a fixed size and budgets are budgets. I think all we can try and do is in many cases, use of quality materials and to ensure that maintenance is minimal, so that you can keep a facility clean. So even if it is overcrowded, at least there's a way of maintaining hygiene standards. The natural light thing is a qualitative thing, but yes, it reduces energy. Natural ventilation in hospitals raises questions because is the air outside clean? depending on where the hospital is. If it's in the heart of the countryside, that's one thing, except if people have suffered from hay fever, then that would be an issue. So it's an interesting, complicated challenge. And I think that our best gesture is really to improve the quality of the physical environment inside the building. How we will design for space standards, well, I don't know if we have a magic answer, to be perfectly honest. The work we're doing for offices and for residential work is seeing a greater space allocation or a reduction in density. And that perhaps is the first thing that we could definitely consider, that there just has to be more space.
Yeah. And on that, it's going to sound really odd, Jonathan, but stick with me. I worked with a company that designs wardrobe space, storage space. And their saying was creating the space that you didn't know you have. And I was curious about this. But the guys from this team were visionary in saying, well, if we do this, this and this, we'll use that space, which is dead space that you didn't know you had, you know, and it's often space above you, isn't it, or below you. It's not just in the eye line. Are you going into facilities and using that kind of visionary approach and consulting with people within those facilities who might turn around and say, we've often wondered why that's been put there. It would be better if it was over on the other side or something like that?
I think, whilst not perhaps answering your question directly, the answer to your question is something which we promote for many typologies, and that is flexibility. Because the truth is, nobody knows what they want. The only thing that you can guarantee is that there's never enough space in any building. It doesn't matter what the building is. If it's an office, if it's a boat, if we designed yachts in the past, then the amount of storage space that is estimated is never enough. So, to be honest, flexibility would be the answer. That perhaps the design of the partition systems, for example, between one room and the next could be imagined to be similar in concept to that for an office building, where they can be clipped out, moved along and clipped back in place. If such a level of flexibility was possible, then if there was a sudden need for a big room, if there was a need for more smaller rooms, you'd be able to have a flexible way of adapting your floor plate to keep the floor plates as simple as possible in design, so that they can be reconfigured.
That sort of modular effect, I mean, I'm fascinated. And with the technology, the design technology now with computer software, and, you know, you can imagine, can't you, see people doing it with their gardens, with their kitchens, with their whole households. You know, if we remove this wall, we'll do that, we'll bring some more light in. Often it's people who aren't within the industry that have that vision. I remember someone saying once that they brought someone in off the street, literally, who observed a process and said, why does that person go from there to there? Wouldn't it be easier to put the widgets next to them? And everyone went, oh, yeah, the obvious sometimes is staring you in the face.
Engagement with clients, engagement with the users, the number of hours that we spent in the airports. I mean, I've worked on quite a few airports in my time. The amount of time we have to engage with all of the end users to try and understand what everybody is wanting. That image that I put up of the Pennsylvania team, that was an interesting one, because in the design phase, we, the client and the contractor, were bound by a single contract. It wasn't the classic design, go for tender, and then you have a series of confrontations and discussions with contractors. You are one team to begin with. I think the idea of flexibility would be the one that we would really love to push, because typically in a hospital, people imagine that you build the rooms and they stay like that forever. That mentality for an office is completely wrong. The Hong Kong Shanghai Bank, which was one of the 3 images that I put up when I talked about changing the diagram, the Hong Kong Shanghai Bank still uses parts of the original partition system that we put in there in '87. And they can be moved over the course of a weekend. It's still regarded by that client 40 years on as one of the most flexible buildings in their portfolio. So I think it has to be perhaps a view towards, well, forgive me for repeating myself, flexibility. I mean, the Nightingale facility, which wasn't really used by the UK in the early days of the epidemic, that was over in London in the exhibition spaces, and it was a big shed with partitions that, in theory, were put there in a matter of days and could have been reconfigured. Maybe is something like that possible? I wonder. I don't know.
I suppose.
Sorry, please. Sorry.
I mean, you pricked my thoughts there. Is that we can use other spaces as well. People think, it has to be the hospital, but we saw very quickly in China how they built a facility from scratch. In the UK, as you say, a facility was adapted. It wasn't being used for one purpose, so it was reimagined for another. And you mentioned there putting the user first, and you talked about the patient as one of the users, but of course the staff are also users. So you talk about flow, natural flow, distances between, why am I having to walk the whole length of the hospital when actually if you just put it nearer, it would make more sense. And then you talked about almost what we would perhaps imagine as luxury things. There was a piano in reception, and there'll always be the cynic that says, well, wouldn't the money be better spent on treatment than a piano? And you probably could have porters bringing the luggage in. And where does it end, and where's this heading?
I don't know. Many years ago, even before I was an architect, but we'd never done any medical work. I did find myself thinking one day, I think it was when I took my son to hospital. And obviously those kind of moments are a bit traumatic when you've got little people and you have to sort of let a doctor take care of them in an operating theatre. It's a bit traumatic. And I just found myself looking around, as I tend to do. I was looking up at the ceiling, and it kind of dawned on me, most patients' main view of a hospital facility is actually looking at the ceiling because they're on the back a lot of the time. And why is it that nobody's thought about that? Because invariably the ceilings are just a myriad of stained, damaged ceiling tiles, badly replaced after the maintenance crew's been in, festooned with lights that are probably not clean, sprinklers, PA systems and so on. Just that simple to think of it from the patient's point of view. What do they see when they enter the facility? You're absolutely right. It has to also be about the staff. These poor people are on their feet for many, many hours of the day. So is there a way of grouping patients around a core group of clinicians? And that was, I didn't show it today, but there's another hospital that we did for a children's hospital in Iowa. And the whole design of that one was based on modules where there was a breakout space for the half a dozen to a dozen bedrooms to be able to use a breakout space so that if you went to see your child, you could leave the room and sit somewhere next to a window, comfortable chair, the doctor could come over, you could sit and have a chat. The whole hospital was on this modular basis of these repeated units. So it tried to bring a core group of staff together with their patients in a not too long to walk distance type of setup. Each facility is totally different, and I think if there is the opportunity, it's always try and work with that hospital as we would do with any project. How do you want your hospital to function? How would you like it to be?
Yeah,
it's a personal service which doesn't cost money because it's just thinking time, and it's not for free, but it's kind of for free because once you start it, you just talk.
Well, I mean, I have 100 questions I'd love to ask you about this. We've sadly run out of time. I think you're absolutely right. And now is the time, because healthcare is probably the #1 topic in the world that's being spoken about. So it's a great opportunity to seize the day, carpe diem, and take the initiative and look at that and what fascinating there, what you said about what the patient sees, but also what the patient feels, what the staff feel, maybe taking ideas from airports and schools and bringing them into the medical sector. Jonathan, the work that you're doing, well, bravo is what I say, because anyone who's used a healthcare facility, wherever it is, whether it's Africa, the UK, America, wherever, will probably say, well, there are some things that could be improved. So keep up the good work. I'm sure you will. Thanks for joining us. That is Jonathan Parr, who is leading the way with the way that spaces within medical facilities are used. Flexibility was the key there, obviously, because situations changed, as we've seen in the last 18 months. Thanks to Jonathan. You can watch his presentation again on Catch Up and stay in touch with him using the hashtag Africa Health Week.